The foundations of our society rest on trust. Humans are incredibly vulnerable. Without society, individual human survival would be a serious problem. So, of course, we collaborate for our mutual protection, we engage in joint enterprises, but even more significantly, we share with others and receive in exchange from them accounts and interpretations of life experience, information that dramatically empowers our intelligence and allows us to reach out and shape the world around us in a manner that serves our individual and collective interests. So, our ability to trust one another is a critical survival trait. Recently, in writing my recent science fiction novel, Darwin's Dilemma, I found myself struggling to anticipate the point of view of a possible future autonomous, self conscious, self programming artificial superintelligence. Since there are dramatic limits on how much world experience any of us, any intelligent being, human or otherwise, is able to assemble on our own, we badly need to exchange and share our experiences. So it seemed possible to me that, just as we humans do, multiple AIs might learn to collaborate in the completion of joint projects and, more significantly, in the sharing of their unique individual life experiences, sharing those experiences with one another. Any intelligent social being needs to share if they are to prosper. By sharing, we dramatically increase our access to life experience, our data, and thus greatly empower our massive intelligence. Since we humans are, after all, the only self conscious, highly intelligent beings we know, our experience as humans seemed relevant to anticipating how AIs might address this matter. So I asked myself, how do we humans manage to trust one another when we are all simultaneously in competition with one another? How do we share important information when we're also painfully aware that misplaced trust and the poorly considered sharing of useful information with a competitor could easily empower them to outcompete us? It's a problem we have to deal with, and all of us deal with it every day of our lives. We humans, after all, evolved as social creatures, right? Our forebears were primates. So long before our full intelligence emerged, we'd had as much as like 52 million years of evolution as social beings, all that already built into our genetics before intelligence ever arrived on the scene. That's far, far more than the mere 200 to 300,000 years drive time that we've had on our current cognitive ability. That's 52 million years, and it would have been plenty of time for us to have acquired a host of very powerful social survival traits that might be useful in assuring that our social groups succeeded and prospered. Traits that encouraged us to be socially responsive and responsible. Our intelligence, that only showed up recently in our evolutionary history. Throughout our history, however, we have also evolved as individuals. If we hadn't learned how to look out for our own personal self-interest, we'd have died off anyway, regardless of any survival advantages a society might have offered. Thus, our genetic and cultural makeup has simultaneously evolved down to completely different tracks. We present today as creatures that have traits that support successful societies, but we also have traits that assure our individual society. Both those sets of traits empower and inform our intelligence. Those traits and behaviors are in competition. As I mentioned in a previous YouTube video, choices we make that aid our individual survival might quite easily run counter to the needs of our society. Yet those that are supportive of society may very well not be in our individual self-interest. It's things like, shall I wait in line or crowd ahead of others? Do I contribute to a worthwhile charity or go out on the town and treat myself to a nice dinner? Should I rob a bank or get a job? Should I save another or save myself? Do I punish or forgive, go to war, negotiate a peace? Those are the kinds of complex choices we make, many of them, every single day. And we all strike our own balance between them. Significantly, when we encounter other human beings, they know that we're thinking about that, just as we know that they are. So the very first question we ask ourselves, and that they will be asking as well, if I share with or rely upon this person, can they be trusted to reciprocate? And how can I persuade them to rely on me? Shortly after development of the European printing press and the ensuing dramatic increase in the sharing of scientific research, Sir Francis Bacon first described what later developed into what we now refer to as the scientific method. Scientists, after all, needed to be confident that their scientific observations that were made by other scientists could be relied upon. The answer was in their replicability. If I observed something of interest, I needed to be able to describe the circumstances that led to that observation in sufficient detail that others could replicate my experience and make that observation as well. My observations, descriptions, and explanations would be published in reputable journals so they could then be subjected to widespread examination, to critique and to improvement. Only those observations and ideas that survived that crucible of replication and of rigorous peer review would come to be accepted by the scientific community. Even outside the world of science, however, most of us subject new, unfamiliar claims or ideas to less formal but equally essential credibility testing. When we encounter a new claim or a new idea, we ask ourselves, who is this person? Do they have appropriate skills and credentials to make this claim? Have they provided accurate reporting in the past? Are they motivated to produce accurate reporting, or might they have a hidden agenda? Are their claims corroborated by other credible sources? Are their claims inherently logical, or are they perhaps simply inconsistent with what we already confidently know about how the world works? If, as you watch this video, you are quite likely considering such questions right now. The answers we come up with will draw on our understanding of our society. They'll depend upon often subtle cues, often ones that are both verbal, like the use of language, and nonverbal, like attire, personality, demeanor, apparent emotional state. All these are judgments that we need to make, and we need to make them well, because our survival may depend upon them. It seems safe to assume that those of us who are skilled at making choices of this kind are more likely to survive than those who are not, and that has to have been true over time throughout human history. Given how many of us there are on Earth today, some 8 billion, and given the complexity of modern society, we humans also have no choice but to specialize. None of us can hope to have deep personal expertise in every field of endeavor, so we inevitably rely upon the representations of respected intermediaries, of others in our community whose knowledge of the matter at hand seems strong and whose judgment of similar issues we've come to trust. The choices we make about the trustworthiness of those intermediaries It may turn out to be flawed. It may sometimes even be downright sloppy, but the skills we employ in making them are critical. We're all aware of our need for information and insights that come from others, but we are also all painfully aware of that internal inherent inconsistency between our individual self-interest and the social interest, an inconsistency that will inevitably rise whenever intelligent, self-conscious, self-interested individuals hope to rely upon one another and to work together collectively as a society. Thankfully, we humans are built and trained for this. We're born entirely dependent upon our parents for our every need. Most of us grow up closely protected by family, by friends, by communities, and even after we are supposedly on our own, our lives still continue to be a thoroughly social enterprise. We're surrounded by teams, co-workers, employers, clubs, associations of every kind. In nearly every area of our lives, we're deeply influenced by the needs of others and by our own ability to negotiate with others as we address our own needs. Even if we're in business for ourselves, keep in mind our success still turns on how well we form and maintain relationships with others upon whom we can depend and who we must convince to depend on us. We very quickly come to appreciate how completely we rely on others in a countless myriad of ways, and how we secure our food and shelter, how we stay safe, healthy, and alive, how we basically get through life on any given day. It all depends upon our ability to perform these functions. In other words, that is how we humans make those hugely important yet impossibly complex decisions about who to trust. That is how we manage to persuade others to trust us. Those skills, certainly they're cultural, but they also seem very likely to be ones that were built into our very genetic code. They're skills that can decide our short-term individual survival, but they are also ones that are critical to the survival of our societies. Those of us who make them well are more likely to survive, in part because those societies whose members make socially successful choices are more likely to cohere and to prosper. If you'd like to see a written version of this presentation, or if you'd like to see a bibliography of some of its annotations, I've assembled the research which supports it. You might take a look at my website at www.donstuart.net. That's DONSTUART.net. I also have two other videos thus far in this YouTube series. One is entitled The Fallacy of Individualism, and the other is entitled How We Humans Know Right from Wrong, Think Darwin. Finally, if you found this video interesting, you might also enjoy reading my recent multiple award-winning science fiction novel entitled Darwin's Dilemma, a story of humans, AIs, and the future of intelligence. It is available on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and in bookstores everywhere. Thank you so much for watching, and do please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be sure to make every effort to bring you more. Thanks.